All right, so last week or last time we met, whatever that was, we got the Assyrians' demise, or almost demise. So tonight we'll finish that up and see how Nebuchadnezzar comes into play. Okay, Cyaxares the Mede, over and there's your Mede over there. Yeah, I don't have my pointer. Yeah, let me get my. Oh, that'll work. Mhm. The Mede, Media is over here. Cyaxares the Mede threw off the dominion of these guys up here, Scythians. They're a barbaric people. The meantime, down here, Nabopolassar is building his forces. He's in Babylon and is taking Babylon. He's an old family of the Chaldeans. Chaldean is the name for the natives. That's the people who grew up there. In Judah, over in Israel, Josiah gives us great Passover in Jerusalem, and Nabopolassar says it's time to move. That's Nebuchadnezzar's father. He moves north. As he does, he's going to get Assyria. His goal in mind is to destroy them. And Nabopolassar lays siege to Ashur. Ashur is the holy center. That's where their god is. And they consider that a relic city. When Cyaxares, who is the Assyrian, is up there, he's sitting in his holy temple thinking that'll protect him. But it's kind of stupid because he's gone after many holy cities. Babylon itself was a holy city that he had attacked. So, and then also in Egypt, Thebes. Thebes was a holy city, and he attacked that. So he's going to get more of what he dished out right back at him. They laid siege to it. Nebuchadnezzar's army, or well, it's not Nebuchadnezzar yet. It's Nabopolassar. They do it several times. I'm going to cut through all of the history of the back and forth. Eventually, they succeed, but he doesn't succeed alone. This guy over here, who's building his forces, what was his name? Cyaxares, the Mede. He decides, hey, let's do this together. And so they join forces, and now they can take them. Now he lays siege, and he succeeds. Well, the Assyrian is not happy about that. His town is being taken over. Now, what was his name? His name was, what was his name? His name is Cyaxares? No, that's the Mede. The Assyrian's name is Syracuse. Syracuse, I think is how you pronounce it. But they go in together, and they're going to get this guy. Well, he sees what's happening, and he runs. He runs to Nineveh, and that's the book we just finished. Nahum tells about the demise of Nineveh. Of course, it's in several books, but and so they're up there, and they figure, hey, it's not enough just for us to join forces for one fight, because you know what's going to happen. We're going to win, and then we're going to fight over who gets what. So they said, we need a treaty. Well, the way they did the treaties back then was usually by marriage. And so they have a marriage, Cyaxares and Nabopolassar. Nabopolassar has a son named Nebuchadnezzar. Cyaxares has a daughter named Amytis. They wed them, and they have a wedding in this supposed ruins of this holy city, Ashur, on the wall there. And so they're married. Now, it seems to me, though, that Nebuchadnezzar actually really loved this woman. It wasn't just a convenient marriage. He built her the hanging gardens, to make her feel comfortable, or maybe she told him he was going to. But Cyaxares runs to Nineveh. There he burns the palace over his head and commits suicide, he and his court. That doesn't end the army, though. The army is still, I'm not using my notes, so I'm losing the names here. Okay. Ashur-uballit is his general, and he's running the army. Well, it doesn't matter that the king died, we're still fighting. So they run, and they run to Haran. In Haran, they hold up. Well, Nabopolassar is going to pursue them. He pursues them, and eventually he'll conquer that, but that doesn't end it. Trying to find out how much of this history to give you. The problem with the book of Daniel is it covers so much information. It's prophecy at the time written, but for us, most of it is history. And most people are unaware of the history. But of course, Daniel and his people are going to live through it, much of it. So for us, we've got to go back and learn history. So this is the history that will unfold in the book as we go through it. And of course, there's plenty in the book that's still to be fulfilled. Josiah is on the throne in the south, in Judah. He's got this affinity with Egypt. Egypt has always been a rival of Assyria, and now they're going to be a rival of Babylon. And so he's going to link up with the south. In the south, it's Psammetichus who's on the throne. Psammetichus dies. Remember, Psammetichus is the Egyptian, supposedly vassal king for Assyria that never would help them. And Psammetichus dies. Well, a young king comes to the throne. A young king likes to fight and prove his worth. His name is Necho, Pharaoh Necho. He comes to the throne, and to prove his value and, valor, he runs out and he's going to help them. He goes up to Carchemish. On his way up to Carchemish, he stops off he doesn't stop off. Josiah comes out and says, I don't like you coming through here. The very thing that Israel had a problem with when they tried to go through the country of Edom. The Edomites came out and said, you step a foot off the road and we'll kill you. And Moses said, we'll pay for any water we drink. And okay, and then God got mad at that. Josiah is doing the same thing. He's saying, I know you had to come through here to get to where you're going, but I don't like it. I'm going to kill you. And so he says, look, you just mind your own business and, we'll be just fine. Well, he goes on up to Carchemish. And at Carchemish, he wins his battle with the Babylonians. He comes back through, and on his way back through, he deals a blow to Josiah. In Megiddo is where he finds his end. And that's from being brave and courageous when he didn't need to be. Now, there is a mystery behind all of this. The question is, why did he go after Necho? There's a couple of things. Some people will say that the Ark of the Covenant was held by Egypt. That's why it's never found. And that's why the Babylonians did not get it when they came and took the vessels. It could be. I doubt it. There's another spot for it, I think, that's better. Josiah's younger brother's name is Jehoahaz. It's a famous name. And he takes the throne in Jerusalem. As Necho is successful in beating the Babylonians at Carchemish, on his return trip, he stops off and replaces Jehoahaz with his older brother, Jehoiakim. So a king comes through, and the king says, it's all mine. That's what the kings did. And if you wouldn't capitulate, then they'd have a fight for it. And then whoever wins gets it. The same thing that happens exactly today in a nursery. The kid says, that toy's mine. The other one says, you want to prove it? And there we go. Jehoahaz is taken to Egypt and disappears there. We don't hear from him again. Habakkuk at this time is warning Judah. And 3 years later, Nebuchadnezzar comes in. Nebuchadnezzar defeats the Egyptians at Carchemish. And Carchemish had, the Egyptians had left a small force, retaining force there in Carchemish when they went back. And that was not the thing to do. That's a tempting trinket out there. You don't leave a little dainty little force out there to Nebuchadnezzar as though this is what's keeping you at bay. He comes through and he demolishes them. Nebuchadnezzar continues to Jerusalem. They all do. Remember, they've got to all go after Egypt. There is a satanic draw to this, I think. Egypt, all the way through your Bible, is a reference to the world and to wickedness. And it seems like all of these kings want to have some affiliation with Egypt. There's a satanic pull there. But he receives word as Necho's going in. He wants to go down there and defeat, or not Necho, Necho is on the throne, and it's Nebuchadnezzar who wants to go down there and teach a lesson to this guy. Well, as he's about to enter and do his battle, he gets word that his father has died. His father, Nabopolassar, the great conqueror, has died. Well, you know that possession is 9/10 of the rule. So if he's not on the throne, he's got to worry about, is he going to have to fight when he gets home to get the throne again, or what? So he's got to go home. He leaves the fight in Egypt. They're not going to battle it out. He goes back home. But you don't just go home. You got to take something with you. He comes through Jerusalem, and as he does, he picks up some trinkets to take with him. They're 3 Hebrew children and all of the royals. He takes those back with him to say, hey, look what a great general I am, and you'll do well under my command, and all that. So the book of Daniel, that's where we begin. This is going to be Nebuchadnezzar's interaction with Daniel, and then we'll go from there. The book of Daniel records 4 accounts of world history. Each one ends by the overthrow of a united force, just like we've seen Assyria do, just like we've seen Babylon do. We'll soon see the Medes and the Persians get together, and then you'll see Greece do it, and then Rome will do it, and it'll just go and go and go, and eventually it'll be the Catholics and the UN and whoever else takes over. The 4 accounts are here in chapter 2, chapter 7, and chapter 8. In chapter 11, you get it again. In chapter 2, you find 3 kingdoms, and then the end kingdom is none other than the Antichrist himself. So all of these kingdoms in some way are going to picture the Antichrist, but not be the Antichrist. You'll start making a timeline based on who you think these kings are and who you think the interpretation of each vision is. And by that will determine whether you're amillennial, premillennial, postmillennial. And we'll cover those as we get there. Here's the date, or here's the timeline of the book, because the book is not chronological. You get it, chapter 1 to chapter 4 happens in a sequence. Then it skips to chapter 7 and 8. Then back to chapter 5 and 6. Then forward to chapter 9 and 12, if you're going to go through it chronologically. We're not. We're just going to go straight through it as it's there. Daniel, we're in Daniel now. So Daniel 1, verse 1. Daniel 1:1. Daniel 1:1. He says, in the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, into Jerusalem, and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. Bad news. Jehoiakim is the 2nd son of the last good king in Judah, Josiah the Reformer. His name's also called Eliakim in 2 Chronicles 36. There's an apparent discrepancy in your Bible here, because, do what? Yeah. If you want to be a Bible denier, you'll look for those little things that say one thing and You get something that looks a different way in another place. In let me find it. Let me give you the description. See here. Where did I put it? Okay, Jeremiah 25, verse 1. Jeremiah 25. Hmm. Jeremiah 25, 1. It says, the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah concerning all the people of Judah. In the 4th year of Jehoiakim, son of Joash, king of Judah. That was the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, so you got some years, and this is what happened here. Back to Daniel. Does it line up? Daniel 1, verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim. 3rd year there. In Jeremiah, he says, yes. Verse 3. Yeah, for the 13th year, Josiah, son of Ammon, king of Judah. We want the 4th year. Yeah, verse 1. The 4th year, in the 4th year of King Jehoiakim. And in Daniel, he says, in the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim. One says 3rd, one says 4th. So how do you reconcile it? Depends on whether or not you believe the Bible. Really, that's what it boils down to. No, they're both using the same calendar because he's telling you the king of Judah can only reign a certain time. So it's Jewish either way. If you want to find an error with it, you'll just say it's got a problem there. If you want to find a way to make it work, you say God's right, the Bible's right, and I'll go with it. But then you err on the side of God rather than the side of man. So just a simple explanation would be, what time of the year was it? Was it the beginning of the year or the end of the year? One of them could have been counting a few months as part of the year that he reigned, or one could have said, I'm going to be absolutely accurate, and, he didn't reign a full year yet, so we'll call it. You could go with that, and that's an explanation for it. The second way you could do it is you could say Daniel's counting the time that Nebuchadnezzar is king, but not sitting on the throne. You find this. For 2 years prior to Nebuchadnezzar sitting down, he was ruling with his father, though not called king. When it was these battles going on, it was Nebuchadnezzar who was leading the forces. It was Nebuchadnezzar who went down to Egypt. When his father dies, he runs back home, but it was Nebuchadnezzar leading the army. These guys back in the olden days, you didn't just become royalty and sit in a palace somewhere and play video games. You had to lead armies, and you had to go out there and fight and prove you were worthy. It was on the job training. Yeah. Look at 2 Chronicles 36. Second Chronicles 36, look at verse 4. He says, and the king of Egypt made Eliakim, his brother, king over Judah and Jerusalem, and turned his name to Jehoiakim. And Necho took Jehoahaz, his brother, and carried him to Egypt. And there he disappears, or as far as we're concerned, he disappears because the Bible doesn't talk about him again. Neither does history. He just disappears. This is the viciousness that was going on. We're going to read some things that appear like Nebuchadnezzar is going to be nice in the book. And you read the stories of his interaction with Daniel, and you think he's a nice king. There's nothing nice about him. He was a pagan. He was an instrument of punishment in the hand of God. So there wasn't anything nice. He was cruel. He was just as cruel or worse than the Assyrians. He had to impress people that, he was the big bad bear in town, and he did a good job of it. I think the niceness we see is God's favor on Daniel. God will protect a person if they'll sell out for him in the midst of a mess. He'll still protect them, and that's what he did for Daniel and his friends. We saw something else in our entrance there, verse 2. He takes them to the land of Shinar. That's the Bible's name for Babylon. That's the region, Shinar. It's a bad spot. And there's a reason that it's bad, because it sets up the city. You've heard of the city of the great king. This is the city of the devil, Shinar. And all the way through, there's going to be a rival to Jerusalem on this earth that is wicked. And it's still here today. I would say it's Rome. And whatever major city is near you, you can say it's that one. I would say right now it's Pritchard. Let's see what we can find out about this Shinar. He's put it in the house of his gods. Remember, we said that Babylon was considered a holy city. Their god, now his god in particular, but their gods were very cruel. Their gods had to become gods by killing somebody. If you study all that mythology, it's very mean, very violent. It's because the thing they're worshiping is so violent that it influences how they act. Now, our God is very merciful. Therefore, we should be too. He can be, yes. He's going to be in the end. Yes. He's very long suffering. 2 Kings 23. Yeah, it's satanic. Mm-hmm. 2 Kings 23, verse 24. God's giving these people what they wanted. The Israelites in Judah had been doing some wicked things, and God, this is what God does to a man. He says, you want wickedness? Well, let me just give you a whole heaping of it and see how you like it then. So they're going to go to a pagan place where it's pure paganness. 2 Kings 23:24. Moreover, the workers with familiar spirits, the wizards and the images and the idols, and all the abominations that were spied in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem did Josiah put away, that he might perform the words of the law which were written in the book that Hilkiah, the priest, found in the house of the Lord. So that's what's been going on in Judah. Wizards, familiar spirits, pure Satanism. Well, they're about to wind up with a whole bunch of it and find out what God thinks of it. And that's like the devil. He puts a pretty face on it and says you can manipulate it and you can have your little horoscope and whatever until you get sucked in. And there's nothing nice about the devil. He doesn't do his people well. Look at it in 2 Chronicles 36. No, not 30. Let's go. I'm going to just skip through some of this. So let's go to Genesis 10. This Shinar is the the devil's city. It's the center of Satanism at the time. We'll go back a little bit and find out where it started, and it started the same way. Genesis 10, verse 8. And Cush begat Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel. That's Babylon. And Erech and Akkad and Calneh in the land of Shinar. Same city, same spot. It's wickedness. The first guy that shows up there is very violent, wicked. He says he was a mighty hunter before the Lord. That is in the face of God. You can't do anything about this. I'll do what I want. And yeah, he's hunting souls of men. That's right. Look at it in the next chapter, chapter 11. Genesis 11, verse 2. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick. So watch out for them bricklayers. And burn and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. They don't improve on anything. That's the devil. The devil will give you some new devices, but it's not an improving on anything. They had this newfangled invention called a brick instead of a stone. Stone was God made, bricks man made. And they had them some slime. What's your job? I tote the slime. And they said, Go to, let us build a city and a tower whose top may reach into heaven. Even the devil is religious. Satanism is a religion. Anybody who says they're not religious is crazy. They'll religiously claim they're not religious. Man is born to be religious. He has to worship something. He has to have in his mind, this is one hindrance to man, is he thinks he has to have the answer to everything. So he's got to find an origin for everything. We were noticing it today. The cartoons for the kids, they've got to pump them full of evolution, billions and billions of years ago. They've got to train them up when they're just babies that there's billions and billions of years out here, because man naturally wants to know, where did it all start? Genesis 14. Genesis 14. Genesis 14, verse 1. We've seen violence so far, but now we're going to see it on a bigger scale. Genesis 14:1. This is in the land of Shinar. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, that's our place, Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, that these made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Bishra, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, and Sheber, king of Zeboam, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar. So we got a first world war right here. And it's all pointing back to a place. This place, Shinar, is designed so it controls nations. That's exactly what's going to happen in the end. There's one spot on this globe that's going to think it can control the world. And the Antichrist will come to the rule there, and it'll attempt. But God has a little something for him. It'll probably be China. Yes, it will be. Zechariah 5. Zechariah 5, verse 11. Now, you'll find people who will tell you that Mystery Babylon in Revelation is going to be rebuilt in Babylon, in Shinar, and maybe not, but here's what we find. Well, yes, it is. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Zechariah 5:11. And he said unto me to build a house in the land of Shinar, and it shall be established and set there upon her own base. That is, they're building an idol. This is two female angels that come down to descend from heaven. And they got this thing in an ephah. These are long-haired angelic beings, and they're demonic. It's a great wickedness is how the passage describes it. What he's describing here in Zechariah 5 is a religious system that will be on the earth in the tribulation. It's connected with Shinar. It's always been connected with Shinar. Shinar has a god. Matter of fact, they've got two gods. The deity is a male and a female. It's always a male and a female. The names change, but the facts remain. It's a male and a female, and this religion produces pure wickedness. In the Old Testament, it's Baal worship. Baal is accompanied with Ashtaroth, a female goddess. We got it in Judges 2. Judges 2, verse 13. Um, there's a bunch of them in there. Judges 2:13 says, and they forsook the Lord and served Balaam and Ashtaroth. So this twofold deity. You got something way better than a twofold deity. You know, when you got two, you got a problem. Two just means division. You need a third. We got a trinity. Ours is united. Judges chapter 10. Judges 10, verse 6. Judges 10, verse 6. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight in the sight of the Lord, and served Balaam and Ashtaroth, and the gods of Syria, and the gods of Zidon, the gods of Moab, and the gods of the children of Ammon, and the gods of the Philistines, and forsook the Lord and served not him. It's always this Baal and Ashtaroth that's showing up. Why? Those are the two that landed in Shinar and will land again in the tribulation. And they're running a city. And it's more than just a city, it's a global domination is what they're after. Look at 1 Samuel 7. 1 Samuel 7, verse 3. First Samuel 7, verse 3. And Samuel spake unto all the house of Israel, saying, if you do return unto the Lord with all your hearts. I just think this is funny. He doesn't say, okay, I agree with you. Yes, you can return to the Lord. He puts a doubt in there. I doubt you're serious. He says, if you're going to do this, here's what you're going to have to do. He says, return unto the Lord with all your hearts. Then put away the strange gods and Ashtoreths from among you, and prepare your hearts unto the Lord, and serve him only. And he will deliver you out of the hand of the Philistines. Now I wonder who those other gods are. He's going to define it. Verse 4. And the children of Israel did put away Balaam and Ashtaroth, and served the Lord only for a short time. It's always this Baal and Ashtaroth. It keeps popping up. Something mighty satanic about that. For thousands of years, it's Baal and Ashtaroth. Matter of fact, it's still Baal and Ashtaroth. Goes by different names, but it's the same. Yeah, 1 Samuel 12. Yes. 1 Samuel 12:10. 1 Samuel 12:10. And they cried unto the Lord and said, we have sinned because we have forsaken the Lord and have served Balaam and Ashtaroth. keeps haunting them. They keep falling for it. The world's about to fall for it again. But now deliver us out of the hand of our enemies, and we will serve thee. Yeah, sure you will. Here's this religious system that's being set up. It's going to have fornication as part of the worship service. It's a male-female deity, therefore it's going to produce the same that it is. Numbers 25. Numbers 25, verse 1. And the children of Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. And they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods, that is, the Moabites did. And the people did eat and bowed down to their gods. And Israel joined himself to Baal Peor, Baal again. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. But you notice it wasn't just simply a religious thing. It was a physical thing too. In Revelation 2. Revelation 2, verse 20. Hillary's all through your Bible. This this woman is all through your Bible. Revelation 2:20. Notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel. Now, it ain't the Jezebel of Ahab, because she dead and gone thousands of years ago. But there's a spirit of Jezebel, and he calls it a woman of Jezebel. Maybe she's made a comeback. She's been reincarnated. I think that we have a reincarnation in the tribulation will see a reincarnation of Judas. And so I don't doubt that there's going to be a reincarnation of some of this junk here too. Jezebel may be coming back. And we know Moses and Elijah are coming up. Well, they've been here before. You've got an Old Testament that's going to replay in vivid colors in the tribulation. He says, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and to seduce my servants. Now, what's she going to seduce them to do? We would think it would be to do something religious, to serve a new God. Well, that's included, but to commit fornication and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. Now, you find a lot of people who want to spiritualize that and say it means they're serving another God, therefore they're cheating on God. No, it meant just exactly what it said, fornication. It's going to be part of the service. Same thing it always has been historically. Historically, they had temple prostitutes. It was part of the worship service, and that's what's coming back. That's what was going on in Babylon. He said, I have a few things against thee. So he's including a list of things. One of the things was to seduce my servants. That is, she's got a sales pitch. Now, it's just like we saw with the kings where Omri was trying to control both kingdoms, and he did it through sexual perversion. That's the same thing that's going to replay all the way through the Bible. And that's just the list of them. Revelation 17. Revelation 17. I meant to look this up. He says, what did I tell you? Revelation 17:9. Here's the mind which hath wisdom. You find that again. Earlier in the book, he said, if you're going to be smart, here's the number of the beast, and he gives you the 666. But he says, if you got brains, pay attention to this. So you're supposed to pay attention to all the Bible, but there are certain spots in the Bible where he says, hey, this is really important. This is what in school the teacher would say, this is going to be on your test. And so you would write nothing down but that. You would wait for her to say, this is going to be on the test. This is the Bible. He's saying this is very important. Here's the mind that hath wisdom. The 7 heads are the 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Okay, that's more than likely Rome. Rome has 7 hills. And this is going to be the Catholics coming to power in the tribulation. And she does it by idolatry. Idolatry is all over Catholicism. And more than that, it's cannibalism. That's what they claim. Right now, it's spiritualized. Only they don't believe it's spiritualized either. They say, drink this wine and we'll turn it into blood. If it really was turned into blood, they just drank blood. They said, eat this little wafer and we'll turn it into flesh. If they really did it, you would be a cannibal. One day they're really going to do it. Whew, bad news. Well, it's the same thing that's going on in Babylon. Same thing that was going on every time Shinar shows up. Bad news. Isaiah 6. Isaiah 6, verse 13. Yeah. Oh, they'll get a spirit all right. Isaiah 6:13. But yet in it shall be a tenth, and it shall return, and shall be eaten as the teil tree, as an oak, whose substance is in them. When they shall cast their leaves, the holy seed shall be the substance thereof. Israelites are going to become food in the tribulation, literal food, just like the Catholics are claiming they're giving you food. This wafer is going to be flesh. It's going to be part of their worship service. You get Psalm 16. It's all through Psalms, but Psalm 16:4. Psalm 16:4. Said, their sorrows shall be multiplied that hasten after another God. Now, if you ever had a description of the tribulation, there it is. Sorrows multiplied, and beyond anything we've seen so far. He says, their drink offerings of blood will I not offer, nor take up their names unto my lips. That is, their name, you have to worship the beast. That is, you're naming him. He says, I don't want to even hear the names of the other gods mentioned. That is, they're venerating these gods. Get it in Deuteronomy 32. Deuteronomy 32:31. This is all the demonic religion that has been going on before man knew anything about churches. And it'll go on long after the church is gone. The devil's not original, he's a copycat. So he's going to copy something real and just pervert it. Deuteronomy 32:31. For their rock is not as our rock. That is, they got a phony. Even our enemies themselves being judges. For their vine is the vine of Sodom, and their fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are the grapes of gall. Their clusters are bitter. So he's talking about this grape and this vine. You know why? Because that's what Jesus Christ said. I'll not drink of this fruit of the vine till I drink it new with you in my kingdom. We've got one too, but it's nothing you're going to find on this side. Verse 33, their wine is the poison of dragons and the cruel venom of asps. So the kids all have to play around with dragons and think they're something cute and funny. They had a little movie that came out years ago called Tame Your Dragon or something. Uh, that's all designed to make you like something you wouldn't normally like. Hmm. Because one day it's going to show up. Acts 15. Acts 15, verse 29. Acts 15:29. Here we are, church age. We read this in America in the church age and we think, that was a no-brainer. Why do you have to write that? Acts 15:29. That you abstain from meats offered to idols. Well, we don't know anything about that. The rest of the world does, and in the tribulation they sure will. And from, there it is again, blood, and from things strangled, and from, how come this is in the same list as that blood and all that stuff? Fornication, from which if you keep yourselves, ye shall do well, fare you well. So that religion that started in the beginning has all the same components, has run all the way through history. We are in a little time warp right now. We're not exposed to all this wickedness on a day-to-day basis. I mean, you can find it. It's all over if you know where to look. However, it's coming back. And it's in the Bible, all the way through the Bible. Stay away from this mess because it's all going to be contained in the religion that the devil's coming back to set up. That's what was going on in Babylon. All right, we covered 2 verses. We'll we'll make it through the rest of the chapter, but we'll take our time. The problem with the book of Daniel is this. It covers a ton of history. So we're going to have to jump between Isaiah and Ezekiel and Jeremiah and pick up their history as Israel dies. There won't be much left on the Israel side of it. And we'll see him talk about what's going to happen. All right, we'll pick up Daniel 1:3 next week.